okay, guys. I promise. All winds blow away. Eventually. CatNap! Please, help us go to sleep, CatNap!
We need it, CatNap!
Please help us!
Sleep, sleep, sleep!
Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 has just released very recently, so I thought what better way to celebrate that than to do a full review on the whole entire chapter. Before we get into the review, spoiler warning, as this review will contain spoilers on the chapter. So if you would like to experience or watch videos on the chapter and don't want to see spoilers before you do that, do not watch this video. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, I believe, is the best chapter so far in the series. Not just because it's got probably the coolest antagonist, CatNap, but the ambiance and the scenery in this chapter is above and beyond terrifying. The fact that half of the chapter is inside of a dome for experimenting on children and turning them into toys is downright terrifying. When you're on that gondola being transported into the dome and hearing Elliot Ludwig's backstory on this new play care area, it just really gives you an opening on how downright awful this owner of Playtime is. Ludwig took to making a dome and a special orphanage for parents that have like no time to take care of their children or children who need another place to stay, and marketing this place to be a lovable place with live toys and areas where people can be taught is just terrifying, knowing the actual backstory now and seeing how decrepit and just downright just how drenched and creepy every single turn is, especially in the actual teachers area or in the actual orphanage area. It almost reminds me of Monsters Inc. University, where Mike and Sully are in the alternate world with the little girls. It reminds me of that, where it's so dark and terrifying, and every corner is just so it's just so dark. It's almost kind of disgusting in a way, because it's almost just kind of all damp and stuff because of how just dark it is. It's unnaturally dark. Anything could be lurking in those shadows, such as CatNap. One thing we really need to address is the locations that the creator put us in. From the main hub area inside of the dome, to the school area, to the actual orphanage area, to the actual warehouse, it's really just demonically creepy almost. It's that just right amount of darkness where you can barely see, but it's also not too dark where you can't see at all, but there's also no flashlight, so it makes you on edge and absolutely terrified, not knowing what could be beyond the corner of the doorway you're about to walk through. Speaking of lurking in the darkness, let's talk about the main antagonist of this chapter, CatNap. CatNap, again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I think is the best villain in this entire series of chapters 1 through 3. The best villain. He is downright terrifying, and his ability to spill out this sleeping kind of hallucination gas is amazingly horrifying. We get a perfect representation of his transformations towards the end of the game when we get both the batteries. CatNap comes walking out of the doorway, breathes the red smoke out of his mouth, and he transforms right in front of us. He goes from this kind of stuffed animal thing to this bony, old, gigantic mouth creature. His face almost looks like an alternate from the Mandela catalog. It is so what I want to compare this to is uncanny. It's really uncanny because It almost looks like it's supposed to be like a human face, considering like the facial features and all the bones, like almost like a dog or a cat. But it's not. It's that perfect borderline between not real and real. That's what uncanny is, and that's exactly what CatNap is represented to be. It's supposed to look like, kind of like a cat, but that smile and the bone features and how he moves and his eyes, everything. It's that perfect line, and that's exactly what uncanny is, and that's exactly what CatNap is supposed to be. Speaking of the hallucination ability by CatNap, I would say my favorite part of hallucinations is the Huggy Wuggy nightmare scene.
Greetings, employees, and welcome to your first day here in Playtime. We're certain that in the days to come, you'll find your new family here every bit as loving and supportive as your own. Feel free to wander the halls, sit in the mess for lunch, or watch our children play and learn to their little hearts' content. Join the innovationists where the bounds of science are continuously pushed, or join the counselors of Playcare whose diligence and care for our children will help shape a brighter future. Just you see. Now, every one of you has your part in that future, so should you come back tomorrow feeling unhappy for where you are or what you've done, worry not, for your supervisor is here and happy to listen. And should you come back years later, your conscience finally getting the better of you, may you descend into the dark and the dust, finding all that awaits you are incomprehensible horrors, each hungry for your return, each eager that they might find you. Perhaps they'd smile at you from a shadow, their smiling mouths full of teeth and meat and plastic, watching and waiting patiently for their turn at a warm welcome. Or perhaps they won't allow you such time to figure your place in the world you'd left, a world that's theirs now. Welcome home.
It is the perfect representation of how terrifying CatNap's ability actually is. Sleep gas doesn't really seem that terrifying, but when you actually see what it does and how it transforms Huggy Wuggy to looking like this monster is amazingly terrifying. On the topic of horrifying things, we need to talk about two things here. The first thing is Dog Day's death.
His angel come to save us. Nothing left to save. Not here. Nor at CatNap's home, angel. Their home. A myriad pairs of eyes are on you now. Watching, waiting, hungry. They want nothing more than to crawl beneath your skin and eat away at you bit by little bit. Fill what feels empty inside themselves. That thing. CatNap. The prototype is his god. And this is what he does to heretics. These little toys follow CatNap to avoid that very fate. And in return, they are fed. We try to fight it. The prototype's control. I am the last of the smiling critters. Listen to me. You need to get out of this place. You need to live. You and Poppy could fix this. End this madness. The torment. Oh no. Oh no. Leave me. Please. Just go. Run.
His death was very sad, but it shows how far down this rabbit hole goes of Poppy Playtime. Especially considering the prototype's doing. Because the prototype is commanding, or is the god, as Dog Day says, of CatNap's. And CatNap is the one who controls or uses his gas to control the little smiling critters things. which crawls inside of Dog Day, by the way, and makes him do horrific things. You know, like, it moves him. It controls Dog Day, and it's terrifying. The chase scene with Dog Day is terrifying. It is downright horrifying hearing that thumping behind you, knowing he is, like, literally 2 feet behind you, like 10 feet, 2 feet, some sort of feet behind you, getting ever closer, and you're not able to sprint. It's awful. Next thing we need to talk about is the insane twist in this story of Poppy Playtime is the Hour of Joy. This brand new, like, content is, wow. I was not expecting this. I heard about killing in Puppy Playtime, but I didn't hear about everybody dying. The Hour of Joy is basically all of the toys that were made, you know, Huggy Wuggy, like, I think Kissy Missy was in there, though, but I'm not totally sure, because you couldn't really tell because it's black and white, but Huggy Wuggy, Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, the teachers, Boxy Boo, and I believe CatNap and some other things, like with little, like, smiling critters, little toys. They all combined in an hour to kill every single employee, CEO, everybody in the entire Playtime Co. facility, killed everybody. In the dome, out of the dome, everywhere. They all died within an hour. It's insane to see that. And the aftershots of everything is done, all the dead bodies on the floor, it is so gruesome, but it's, like, perfect in Poppy Playtime's story, considering these possessed toys, because that's what Elliot Ludwig did. This was his dramatic tale of turning these kids into toys. Now we need to talk about the quote-unquote god of this whole entire Poppy Playtime storyline, which is the prototype, as Ollie calls it, and everybody else calls it in Playtime. This thing is the god of everything, because this prototype is the first ever experiment in Playtime Co. We first learned about this prototype in Chapter 2, I think, like, halfway through. There's, like, you put in a tape in, like, with a tape player, and you can tell immediately that it's about the prototype, because, like, there's, like, a hand on the screen, and it's talking about, you know, Experiment 001, which is the prototype.
24459. In relation, Experiment 1006. The prototype. Stubborn as he is, and always silent with each passing session, I'm still uncovering fresh data nonetheless. Today's discovery... End of log.
Ready to talk now, are you? I possess
A question.
Go ahead.
Do you feel anything?
This question referred to what exactly?
You stick us,
Beat us.
tear at flesh.
Do you
But there's a secret inside you, 1006. Valuable beyond all measure. I cut and prod and burn at it. And I get closer with each session. So speak. Or don't. Fight. Or give in. Regardless, I learn something new about you every day. It excites me.
Thank you.
You thank me?
Absolutely.
I learn something new about you every day.
And it talks about him. I don't remember what it says about him, but all I know is that this thing is literally a command. It's literally a god. It controls everybody. It tells everybody what to do and how to do it. Speaking of the prototype, watching back the VHS tape, by the way, it's not 001, it's 1006. It sounds like this thing can change its tone of voice. It can go from sounding like a little girl to sounding like a demon. From a high-pitched voice to a demon voice, this thing can change like noises. So, I'm guessing that in the next chapter, we could possibly be tricked, or maybe in this chapter, Ollie is actually the prototype, and it's trying to teach us, because maybe Ollie was trying to tell us, or trying to get us to get killed by the CatNap. To conclude my ride through the entirety of Chapter 3 in this video, I would like to happily say that I would give this chapter a solid 9 out of 10, maybe even 10, but we still have Chapter 4 to go through. Speaking of Chapter 4, the next chapter, it's up to Mob Entertainment if they either want to answer a bunch of questions or add more questions for a following chapter, or just leave us off on a cliffhanger. But I do hope that Chapter 4 might end up being the final chapter. If so, we will get a concluding question on what happened to Kissy Missy, what happened to CatNap, who is the prototype, what is the prototype, and everything behind this entire hellhole that is Poppy Playtime and the Playtime Co. facility. But that is it for right now. All the questions will hopefully be answered by the start and during Chapter 4. So for now, our Poppy Playtime theory journey comes to a halt. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.